Part 45. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 442. 42 To help. A few years ago, Lu Ying, who had been spotted by violent soldiers, knew more about what that was than other girls. She was topped by this unfamiliar monk with a black face, and Lu Ying was suddenly ashamed to speak. Yakong couldn't care less about her. When she caught her wrist just now, let a corpse of poison penetrate into her body. He was sensing the corpse poison. He wanted to use Xianxia to destroy the corpse poison, but Xianxia didn't buy his account at all. Until the corpse poison approached Lingtai Zifu, the spiritual force cyclone in the sea of air suddenly sped up, attracting the corpse poison. Like last time, corpse poison disappeared instantly in the same way as snow falling in the hot sun. Yakong then withdrew his gaze from his body and asked, "Girl Lu Ying, what is the situation?" The girl Lu Ying was still wandering away because she felt something from a strange man. Then she converged and said, "How do you know my name is Lu Ying?" Yakong vomited blood. Alas, the little girl is really, at this critical moment, she still has the heart to ask these boring questions. "I heard what your uncle Li Wei said, girl Lu Ying. The situation is unknown now, let me tell you first." With this urging by Yakong, Lu Ying was awakened and said, "The miners' village is plagued. The family elders think that this is our Huangzhou boundary. It should be cleared by our families to eliminate the evil, so we ordered us to come here to investigate. Know exactly what is going on." Yakong yelled. It was nice to say that he hadn't collected the millennium's fine iron. "If it is not paid, will your elders send someone?" Hearing Lu Ying said, Here, Uncle Wanyang guessed that the ancient corpses in the mine had accumulated over time, absorbed the metallic aura of fine iron, and came out of the zombie, so he came down with Uncle Li Wei to check. "Shallow, so I'll support you behind." Yakong nodded. "Wanyang is a real person in Zuji. It's a bit of knowledge, and I guessed it when I came to see it." Lu Ying nodded. Uncle Wanyang said that he had killed zombies before. It should not be a problem and he will be back soon. But after waiting for a few hours, neither of them came up. I was anxious, so I came down to check. Who knew that when he entered the mine, he lost his way? I was in a panic, and I saw countless zombies drilled on the ground behind me. Speaking of this, Lu Ying's eyes showed a look of fear. After all, the girls were afraid of these things, and she said, "The zombies' body water seems to have been sucked away, all dried up like corpses." I was afraid, so I used a flying sword. Attack, who knows that the body and bones of the thing are like steel, and my flying sword hit many times, even they are intact. Yakong looked at her flying sword and said, "These zombies have no means of attack, but they use the power of their body. Although your flying sword is a medium quality product, but you haven't repaired it enough, the mana cannot be fully exerted. This is normal." Lu Ying also knew that his mana was not enough, and his face flushed and said, "I also think so, so I attacked with the Firebird curse. Although the attack worked, the zombies who were blown up with their arms and legs broken did not die. I crawled towards me with a grin, and I didn't have 2 Firebird mantras. I had to fight and retreat, and I encountered a lot of zombies on the road, but they were slow to move, so I fled here and set up a magic array. This to hide those zombies." Yakong shook his head and smiled, "I can't hide the zombie. Your fantasy cloth is so inferior that even ordinary mortals can see it through at a glance." Lu Ying opened her mouth wide, then lowered her head and said, "I also just started to learn the formation." Yakong said again, "I'm afraid that those zombies are under the control of people, forcing you to come to this dead place of the Jedi, waiting for the mortal corpse to catch you." Lu Ying opened her mouth again and again, her panic was clearly visible. But then, what Yakong didn't expect was that the cowardly woman said, "I and the uncles come together, and we can't go back together, we must stay together." Then she said to Yakong, This senior, I do not know your name yet, but I want to ask you to help me return to Huangzhou Wanjia and ask the elders of the family to come forward to solve it. Wanyang and Li Wei are both real people at the base. They are afraid of being in crisis at this moment. See, this zombie didn't come into being naturally. There must be fierce and cruel people behind him, and only the elders of the family came forward to solve it. Yekong did not expect this little girl to be so hard-hearted at the critical moment, and nodded and said, "Girl Lu Ying, first of all, I want to tell you that the name is Li Hizi, and secondly, I want to remind you that your two base builders and uncles are both UCANT beat these zombies. You re a 5-layer monk who is trying to get rid of gas is dead here. It's better to go up with me. Can you go back to the reporter's door?" Lu Ying saw this man speak out of retreat, more thought of Li Wei's words before, she despised. However, she thought, no matter what, this matter has nothing to do with others, and they are willing to accompany themselves up. Senior Li, the family teacher and uncle are still in danger, and Lu Ying can't go back alone. At that time, a senior monk saved the little girl in distress. Without that monk, how can a little girl be today? The little girl has always used that senior monk as a role model. If the monk is in this situation, he will definitely not shrink back, so the little girl will never abandon the uncle. Lu Ying said, slammed 3 heads into Yekong, and drew out of a small black bag, said, "Senior Li, this is all I have saved, a total of 120 spirit stones, the fare for sending a letter, thanks Senior Li." Lu Ying poked her head 3 more times, lowered the small black bag, and went out when she took off the sword. "This girl is pretty." Bachelor Yekong hurriedly grabbed her sleeve, picked up the spirit stone and threw it to her, and said, "Hey, little girl, repair. Is there a lot of 120 spirit stones? Think so? Let a real person from Zuji run thousands of miles for you. Are you Li Litzi who is lacking in spirit stones?" After that, someone even took out a few black bags with a lot of spirit stones inside. Lu Ying's pretty face turned red, and she knew that this Lingxi family couldn't care less. She had to say, "Little girl has no long objects. Except for these Lingxi, there is only this Zongfei Fijian, but Fijian to fight. Hey, although you don't have money, but you have someone." Yekong could not help but tease, "It is better to make a promise with your body." Maybe the real person was blinded by flowers for a while, then agreed. When Lu Ying heard it, she was furious. The black-faced monk was so shameless that she made such a request. "Senior Li, since you don't agree, just leave it as a little girl," Lu Ying said, throwing off his sleeve and walking towards the fork in the road. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 443. The Power of Thunderstorm. Yekong chased after him. "Did you have a sweetheart? I guess, could it be one of the 2 uncles trapped?" Lu Ying flushed with anger and said, "Seniors don't have to guess wildly. The little girl stays because she is the master of the family and cannot be abandoned, not for personal affection. The little girl has already vowed, not the original one save the little woman's predecessor from marrying, so Senior Li need not say more." Yekong stunned, his ancestors were stubborn, "Wouldn't I not marry?" Lu Ying almost shouted, "I said the predecessor. It wasn't you. The predecessor was brave and righteous, but you were timid and timid. The predecessor helped others to save people without remuneration, and you took advantage of small things, the danger of man. The predecessor can die his life for righteousness, but you persecute a little girl for your own self-interest. I will not die as a fellow of you like this. Do not be delusional." What made Lu Ying faint is that the black-faced boy didn't have any shame at all. He was scolded by himself like this, and his face even opened a smile. This guy is not only timid, but also has a problem in his head. Lu Ying snorted and stopped talking to him, and continued to walk in the other direction of the mine. "Hey, girl, little girl, you listen to me. The senior you said knows that you did not marry him. I am afraid you do not know, it's called secret love. Since ancient times, passionate love and hate, actually secret love the most hurtful thing. I think you might as well find a monk like this. Shit doesn't work. Ridiculous. Lu Ying was pleased to see the boy before, but did not expect a few words of time, and was annoying to this person. Senior Li, I remind you that there are zombies in front of you. If you are so afraid of death, let's go back early. This matter has nothing to do with you, Lu Ying said after walking for a while. Who said that I was afraid of death? Ye Kong had a chest. Cut, don't think I don't know, my uncle Li Wei went to blackmail you, and you even kneeled down for mercy and sent me. Lu Ying felt that it was inappropriate to use the gift, and felt like sending a token of love. Take the bow you and I lost and pull it off. I kneel for mercy? My ancestors. Ye Kong was so annoyed that he didn't expect the guy to arrange him like this behind his back. I saw your uncle when I looked back. I had to make his mouth asshole. Lu Ying wanted to laugh out of him, but he still kept his face. Clean your mouth. After walking down for a while, Lu Ying once again reminded, Senior Li, I really want to meet zombies soon, I hope you don't regret it. And, I want to delay so long, the corpse control person behind the zombies also almost there, you have time to go now. But when she finished, she heard the black-faced monk sneer, it's too late to go now. Then he sighed and said, He Fang, you come out. The atmosphere that Lu Ying said in his mouth was actually scared in his heart. After hearing what he said, she stopped immediately, but she looked back and forth and found no abnormalities. For a brief moment, when she wanted to question, she saw a sudden movement on the ground on the front and back. I saw the dirt on the ground flipping open, and a dried zombie, like a awakened demon, took the dirt away and got out. Seeing these ugly and scary zombies, the little girl Xiu Luiying was frightened and immediately held the flying sword in her hand. When encountering danger, she always has expectations for the men around her. This is the nature of a woman. Lu Ying is no exception. She subconsciously looks at Ye Kong beside her, but when her face turns, her heart thinking, this coward, I'm afraid he's scared and ready to run away. But to her surprise, the black-faced monk was so unhurried that he patted his storage bag and took out a charm. Little zombies, dare to be crazy. Thunderfire curse. A click made a loud noise, and the most powerful thunderbolt in the lower grade was even more powerful in a narrow space. A blue, thick, lightning-like thunderbolt instantly split on a zombie. Boom, the zombie was shattered by a powerful thunderbolt. Seeing Lei Huo curse the mighty power, Lu Ying couldn't help but sigh in his heart, rich people are just different. I can't even buy a few 40 pieces of Firebird curse, and when I shot it, it was a high-level spell that was rarely seen outside. In fact, Lu Ying didn't know that the Firebird curse was a low-grade medium grade, but the Thunderfire curse was a low-grade. Theoretically, the Firebird curse was a higher level than the Thunderfire curse. Of course, because the Thunderfire curse is scarce, the price is indeed twice as expensive as the Firebird curse. A minor repair like her with a total of only 100 spirit stones is basically useless. Some people have to say that the lower-ranking Firebird curse cannot completely kill the zombies. Why is the lower-ranking Thunderfire curse okay? This shows Ye Kong's understanding of the 5 elements of Shenk. In fact, when fighting, it is not necessarily that higher-level spells have better effects. Often, the use of appropriate spells can do more with less. For unclean things like zombies, lightning strikes are often more effective. Seeing a zombie being beaten into scum, the little girl Xiu rejoiced. Even the insignificant person seemed to be a lot taller, but Lu Ying was worried again, and this killed a zombie. There are nearly 20 left and right. Don't you really have so many Thunderfire curses? Really? Let Lu Ying guess. Yes, somebody opened the bow from side to side. The Thunderfire curse was like no money. For a while, in a small passage, the crackling thunder sound rattled, shaking Lu Ying's ears buzzing. No, you go out with so many thunder fire spells, Lu Ying both said. However, someone immediately added a sentence, 880 spirit stones. Lu Ying's eyes widened, oh my god, one of 80 spirit stones. Buy one of your own spiritual stones for 1 year, and you just throw it away like this? God, kill me. In a blink of an eye, you are throwing away thousands of spirit stones. You are too extravagant. I don't know how many spirit stones come easily. Just listen to someone and say, well, there is one more for you to play with. Lu Ying was a little embarrassed, I only have 120 spirit stones. Lu Ying originally thought that the boy should say generously, it doesn't matter, I let you put it, it's the same. Who knows, someone snorted and said, that's it, I'll settle the bill with you when I'm done. The little girl is going to vomit blood. Stingy, too stingy. Shameless, insignificant, timid, shy, and now you need to be stingy. Accounts are counted. Lu Ying took the thunderous curse, and also learned someone's simple formula. A thunderbolt fell off, and the last zombie declared slag. But things are far from simple. After the zombies were killed, I heard the weird laughter coming from the corner of the distant mine, and then a tall shadow slowly came out. Caught 2 real people who built the base. I didn't expect there was another real person who built the base. I really found a treasure. Gaga, 2 uncles, 1 of me, and a gas refining period. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 444. 444 Corpse Yin Zone Fatty. In the strange laughter, a figure came out. Looking at the elongated shadow before, Yekong thought he was a tall man, and when he came out, he found out that this guy turned out to be a short fat man with a naked upper body and a fat body. It felt like a meat butcher on a vegetable market. The reason why he can pull such a big shadow is because he has a huge coffin on his back. Dead Yin Zone, Yekong frowned. The corpse Yin sect is well recognized, everyone carries a coffin, even the suzerain or the elder. They may go out without a weapon, but they will never forget to bring a coffin. Because the zombies in the coffin are their most powerful weapon. You know a little bit. I don't know who the disciples are. Is it Huangzhou Wanjia? The fat man said coldly. Yekong thought, if he showed Yun Fuzong's identity, he might avoid a fight, but think again, he would not kill himself, he would also kill him, and so on to release the corpse poison and harm the villains on earth, only kill them just clean. It's just a casual meditation passing by, and when I saw that this nun was in distress, I wanted to help her. Yekong smiled lightly. The fat man laughed, you are a flower-loving person. The so-called person dies under the flower, and the ghost is also romantic, it's just a pity that the flower was not picked, but it killed him. Yeah. You senior corpse Yin sect, you can only build 3 bases, 1 level higher than the bottom. I'd like to see if you have any skills to blow this bull X. I think you might as well call your uncle. Come, maybe there is hope for my victory. Yekong's words were tentative. Uncle is busy preparing to build those 2 real people, how can there be time? The fat man was the fastest, and when he found out that he was wrong, he yelled, hey! You tell me. Yekong already has a bottom. It seems that this is the 2 corpses of the dead Yin sect working together to build a foundation, no wonder Wan Yang and Li Wei have gone back or not. Yekong smiled faintly, is it necessary for you to tell me? Just I don't think you are my opponent. After Yekong finished speaking, he raised his hand and took a shot. The golden sword of the top quality instrument drilled out of the storage bag, and the golden sword flying brightly illuminated the dark mine tunnel, and the black metallic luster was reflected on the mine tunnel wall. It seems that this concentrate is indeed in good condition. If it is an ordinary monk, when you see the top grade flying sword, it will be bright with both eyes, revealing the color of magpie. But the fat man sneered, Shang Fei Fei Jian, there is a fart. The instruments are auxiliary, my corpse insect is only interested in the corpse. BT, Lu Ying couldn't help but curse. Ye Kong laughed, I know that you are particularly interested in corpses, but we are all living people, and those miners are living people without mana. They are also men. Wouldn't you kill them? Alas, and corpse, you are really BT enough. Lu Ying was sick for a while, and this 80% of Lihiza was not a good person, so nasty and BT can be thought of. Haha, the fat man laughed, hey, you're telling me again, if I get you out again, I'm stupid. But, I'm so boring to the corpse every day, so I'll just tell you. The general method of corpse refining is indeed a dead body of an ancient corpse. The longer the better, the better. But those treasure corpses are rare, and our corpse Yinzong studied a new method of corpse refining, called refining the soul corpse. That is, unlike the previous refining of a corpse without a soul, we just use the dead. Yes, the soul does not have a dissipated corpse, the body and soul are the same. The zombies so refined are not only equally powerful, but also very flexible, and they are thousands of times smarter than those without zombies. Stupid, you know so much about Lao Tzu, you are a stupid idiot. Ye Kong nodded, this move is really clever. It can be called a great pioneering work in the corpse cultivation world. It opened the precedent of body and soul cultivation. Hi, it is indeed hi. Haha, the fat man was happily laughed and said, my corpse Yinzong is doing this. Of course, there must be research results. I'm not afraid to tell you that the soul corpse also has a classification, like the one you killed just now. But those stone corpses made by mortal miners, ordinary gas refining monks are no longer rivals, and minor gas refining miners like this female. The fat man pointed at Lu Ying and said, like her, she can make a medium quality iron corpse. Wow, the iron corpse is so scary, Ye Kong laughed at Lu Ying. Get off, Lu Ying can't wait to kick this guy. The enemy is still so hesitant. I wonder if this guy was really kicked by the donkey? Ye Kong said again, then Li, of course, is a bronze corpse. The fat man laughed, you monk is smart. Although you are not high in cultivation, you are very clever. Maybe you can make a top quality bronze corpse. When the major factions attack my corpse insect, I will be more alive. This fat guy is really stupid. Someone said it before someone asked, and every time he said it, he found it. Not good, the fat man's complexion changed. How did the heart say the biggest secret in the case? But then he was relieved sooner or later. You are my soul corpse, I know nothing, haha, the corpse is the best kept secret. You're right. I don't know why the major factions besieged your dead yin sect, aren't you also the right way alliance? When Ye Kong questioned, he was thinking, and it seemed that the corpse refining had something to do with the event of going to Kangbei. It must be that the dead yin sect has felt that the major parties have opened up the space channel and looked at it with delay, so they sent their disciples out to make zombies, waiting to deal with the majors. This is important news, so I might as well inquire about it. Going to Kangbei is not as simple as a martial arts mission. Ye Kong has decided to go. More news will be of great benefit to him. But the fat man didn't want to say more, and took off the oversized coffin from his back, threw it on the ground, and hummed coldly, some secrets, even the body can't know. Seeing that the battle was imminent, Ye Kong had a plan, and yelled at Lu Ying, you go up first, and give it to me here. After Ye Kong finished speaking, he took out a jade camouflage, which recorded his route from the entrance of the mine. Lu Ying should go out easily. But Lu Ying didn't expect the boy to deny himself for a moment, and he was a bit uncomfortable. Nothing, but go. Get out. Get in the way, Ye Kong cursed. If this fat man is killed, Lu Ying does not necessarily have to go. The key is that Ye Kong has a new idea, so he doesn't want to be involved in danger, and if this female is in the school, some of his overbearing things will not come out. Lu Ying was annoyed when he heard him scolding himself for getting in the way. Go and go, I think you're ashamed to ask him for mercy in front of me. But the fat man on the other side yelled, don't even want to leave. Do you still want to leave after hearing the secret of our corpse Yinzong? No way. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 445. Bronze Corpse of 1945. After the fat man spoke, he took out a formula with both hands, and then patted it on the coffin cover at the same time. He drank in a deep voice, get up. I saw that the dark coffin stood upright, a coffin stood in front of himself. How weird the scene was, and Lu Ying panicked involuntarily and stepped back involuntarily. The large coffin paused briefly. Then a long squeak came out. As soon as Ye Kong waited for the coffin cover to open slowly, he suddenly heard a non-human and beast squeaking howl, and then a loud bang. The thick coffin cover was emitted inside. Slammed and smashed into Lu Ying. This zombie hasn't appeared in sight yet, but Ye Kong has already felt that this zombie is indeed an unusual zombie. This zombie has a plan. It pushed the coffin cover first, causing it to open slowly, and then suddenly broke into trouble, trying to hit Ye Kong by surprise, and the coffin cover was attacked by Lu Ying, who had weaker magic power. This corpse Yinzong's soul refining corpse is truly extraordinary. Ye Hollow thought. As soon as the coffin cover was struck, a pale shadow jumped out of the coffin at the same time. Unlike other zombies that are slow, this white shadow is very fast, and it is not a straight attack. I saw that white shadow rush to the top of the mine, kicked it on the fixed wall of the mine, and then headed from the top of Ye Kong. Strike. How disgusting. As soon as Ye Kong looked up, he could see the attacking zombie. I saw the zombie as if drowning in water. His body was pale and blue, and his color was very seductive. Looking at the zombie's head and face, his smooth head had no hair or eyebrows, and his two big eyes were covered with bright red bloodshots. The mouth was even more terrible, the teeth were exposed, and the bright red was hanging on his teeth. Bloody minced meat, I don't know if I just ate the dead. From the zombie's mouth, someone could not understand the sound of crickets, as if screaming and excited, and his too skinny frantic fluttering. He was about to plop on Ye Kong's head, holding his head in a panic. The hairs on the back of Ye Kong were erected. He threw the gold shield and broadsword sharply, and the top-grade implement rolled a few times in the air. A golden light flashed, and the blade of the golden broadsword was chopped at the zombie face. This time, Ye Kong believes that even the real people of Zuji will be beaten beyond recognition. A monk who built a base used the top-level Fijian's full blow to imagine the power. It is surprising that the body of the dry corpse is so strong that the golden shield broadsword hits his face, as if smashed on a metal weapon. A spark is emitted, and a crisp sound of metal impact is emitted. Well, the dry corpse was shrunk back, shouting a few times, even on the wall, and rushed again. Dang dang dang! Ye Kong had several swords in a row, blocking the dead body. The iron corpse of Daiyu is really powerful. Ye Kong took out the thunder corpse and threw out a thunderbolt. However, the thunderous fire curse that was so powerful just now was useless to this corpse. An electric snake split it, and the corpse was unharmed. Instead, it aroused the ferocious nature of the corpse. Haha, this is not its killing trick. The fat man haha smiled, proudly. One more thing, I want to tell you clearly, this is not an iron corpse, but a copper corpse made by a real person who builds a foundation. The power is so amazing. Don't look at it as if it was repaired similar to you in your lifetime, but now it is not something ordinary monks can deal with. Hey, Blackbird, you will be like it in the future. Then see if you can catch me, Ye Kong sneered. Of course I can, the fat man snarled, banged his hands on a few tricks, pointed at the zombie, and drank in his mouth. Daffa. The white bronze corpse was ordered, and stared at Yekong with blood-red eyes, howling in his mouth, then grabbed his other arm with a dry hand, and then opened his mouth. Mouth broke his arm. Suddenly, the black blood with the stench bleed out, and the zombie ate his own flesh and blood and showed a happy expression. The scene was terrifying, and the little girl Xiu Luiying was vomiting. "Hold your breath. Hurry," Yekong roared sharply. "I'm not going," Luiying shouted stubbornly, but she couldn't do anything about it. She clearly felt that her strong corpse had penetrated into the meridians of her limbs, making her unable to lift up any strength. At this time, the zombie swooped up with his broken arm as a weapon. Dang dang dang! Was another rustling of metal, and the truncated arm was no less than a top-quality instrument, and Jin Dunkyuo's sword was stepped back. Yekong originally wanted Luiying to go first, and then he could hide and track the fat man with golden-winged ants, find their old nest, and then eavesdrop on the news of the dead corpse. But this girl is not obedient. She has also been poisoned by the corpse. If you send her up first, you may not be able to keep up with the fat man. Under Yekong Quan, it would be better to just count and let Luiying do the bait. Follow her anyway, it should not hurt her. When Yehalo read it, he saw the corpse holding a broken arm and was fighting fiercely with the Jin Dunkyuo sword. Suddenly he saw a dry tongue of the corpse, and suddenly a thick black blood spewed out from the large blood basin. A large piece of blood stained the golden shield and broadsword, and Yekong was surprised to find that the spiritual connection between himself and the shield sword was getting weaker and weaker. In the end, it could not be sensed, and the flying sword fell down with a bang on the ground. The fat man laughed. "How is the blood-staining technique of my copper corpse? You still have a few tools, you might as well try it out." Yekong smiled bitterly. "It's a meditation, how can there be so many instruments? You don't have a magic weapon, then look at my magic weapon," the fat man sneered, patted his storage bag, and flew out a black whistling rope. "This is a filthy element cord made from underground filthy gas. It is also a top-notch magic weapon. After being tied up, the monk will not only be unable to move, but also not able to use spiritual power." The fat man threw at Yekong, and Xianxia let go. Yekong had been prepared to take out a hidden charm and put his hand on his forehead. Instantly, his figure disappeared into the air. The fat man froze. "I didn't expect this kid to have this hand," and muttered, "What kind of charm is this? Why haven't you heard of it before? What is it?" Leaning against the wall, Luiying, who was weak all over, was crying in the heart, thinking that this Litzi could help himself, but who knew that he had escaped at a critical moment. "This made Xianxia scold someone in my heart countless times, coward. Cowardly guy. Put on a terrific look, it turns out to be a paper tiger and silver gun." The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 446. 46 Killing Wife and Corpse. The fat man wasn't stupid enough. When he saw Yekong disappear, he immediately sacrificed a shield of spiritual power to defend him, and at the same time commanded the bronze corpse aloud, "Bloodstained." The copper corpse obeyed, and murmured something in his mouth that no one could understand, then plugged his broken arm into the mouth, chewed with a big mouth, and then became angry. The black and red corpse blood sprayed the air, and the passage was full, and the fat man closed his eyes and quietly sensed. Yekong, who had been hiding at the corner of the passage, knew that this must be a secret way to find someone. Fortunately, if he was standing in the passage, he would have been found out. The fat man was still very confident in his secret technique. Without sensing Yekong, he waved his hand to disperse the blood mist. He took a black-red elixir from the storage bag and threw it into the mouth of the copper corpse. "Love your wife, you've worked hard. Go to the coffin and take a good rest. Hurry up and give me arms." The dry corpse took the elixir happily, got into the coffin, fell to the ground, and the coffin cover flew over to cover it. Listening to him calling the dead corpse to love his wife, Lu Ying laughed. You people are not ghosts or ghosts, you only accompany the zombies to be your wife. Unexpectedly, the fat man said, I didn't call my zombie my wife, but this zombie was my wife. Lu Ying was shocked. You beast, you actually killed your wife to make a zombie. The more senior monks' corpses make zombies, the better. I thought I had just built the foundation. How could I kill other real people who built the foundation with my ability, so I only killed her. She had no defense. She used to be beautiful, but I like her now. How happy she is now, haven't you seen it? Not to mention Lu Ying, it was Ye Kong who listened, and all felt that his hair was erected. The most unacceptable thing is that when the fat man said such a cruel and outrageous thing, the expression and tone of his expression were all light, as if narrating a very ordinary thing that has nothing to do with himself. When humans lose their humanity, they are worse than countless times worse than the cruelest animal. Ye Kong was angry and angry, this corpse Yinzong is really not a good thing. This evil martial arts can even be ranked in the right way alliance, and sooner or later he will be dealt with. After the fat man finished speaking, he put the coffin on his back again, and through a filthy yuansuo, tied Lu Ying, he held the other end of the filthy yuansuo, and said in his mouth, let's take you to see your two uncles. I think you and your uncle will soon become like my wife. Don't. Asshole. BT, Lu Ying's eyes widened in horror. She would rather die than become such an ugly thing. Thinking about her future appearance, she is almost going crazy. But Xian Yuanchuo clasped her, she could not move at all, and her spiritual power was controlled by the corpse pressure. Her feet were not her own, and she followed the fat coffin mechanically and walked towards the deepest part of the mine. Ye Kong was clinging to a hidden charm, and he didn't dare to be too close, but he had quietly put a gold-winged ant in Lu Ying's sleeve before, so he didn't have to worry about losing it. About an hour later, the mine went deeper and deeper, and the musty smell in the surrounding air became more and more dense, but the moonstone inlaid on the walls on both sides became less and less gloomy. Lu Ying was just a 17-year-old girl. She was really scared. Her hands and feet didn't listen to her, but her mouth was still moving. She cried, cursing, coward, you know you're a coward, and you say you're good. You can run away. What kind of man are you? Oh, I don't want to be a zombie. Ye Kong, who follows him, is funny. You are afraid of being a good guy. Where did the bachelor's energy go just now? Let you run away, don't run away, now you know scold me. Suddenly, the fat man stopped and said, little girl, don't blame, the disappointed boy can't hear, well, even if he goes out to find someone to follow, hey, I can't find you, wait for you to be iron into me corpse, I will let you kill him for revenge. Don't, Lu Ying shouted again quickly. In fact, she scolded the dark-faced guy just as a depression in her heart. She also knew that people had done everything right. If they were not stubborn, how could they be captured now, and how could they blame Li Hiza? The fat man laughed, I can't bear him if he's abandoned. Haha, it's a deep-rooted love. No, he and I are not. Lu Ying wanted to explain, but what's the use of explaining to this guy? He changed his tongue and said, in fact, he is my man. Don't look at him as timid and not planted, but I tell you that he is rich, so why don't you hurry to practice me, then I will go with him for ransom, thousands he has all the spirits. Ye was annoyed, timid and not planted? Sooner or later let you see if there is any kind. Although Lu Ying's proposal is good, the corpse Yinzong has no interest in anything, even Lingxi is no exception. Their favorite is only the corpse. The fat man laughed, go ahead and talk, rest assured, he will never find you. After the fat man finished speaking, he suddenly hit his fist on the ground in front of him, blasting the ground, the ore clods flew, and a large hole was punched in the ground of the mine tunnel. Yekong then knew why the golden-winged ants could not be found. It turned out that they were hiding so deep. If they hadn't kept up the plan by themselves, they would not have found it easy. While Yekong was thinking, he saw that the fat man and Lu Ying jumped down, and then the fat man probably used some soil attribute spells, and the mud that had been broken by his fist was added back and restored. Yekong didn't dare to attack the grass and scared the snake, and quickly followed, listening to the words attached to the golden-winged ants. Just listen to Lu Ying startled, "What is this?" The proud voice of the fat man came over. "It took hundreds of years for our Corpsian ancestors to study the restoration, the ancient teleportation array." Yekong was shocked from the outside. He had heard from Lianrulan that the teleportation array had been lost, and the instant jade was extremely rare. "I did not expect that the dead Yin sect had already taken a step ahead and mastered the space system magic. Can be placed in small places." However, Yekong thought it was normal. If the dead Yin sect did not study these results, how could he dare to open the Kangbei channel? Kangnan and Kangbei's super-large bands were laid by ancient monks using great magical powers, mainly space spells. Without a certain understanding of space spells, it is impossible to open up the space channel. Yekong thought again, "I am afraid that the major factions have already learned a little about this news, otherwise they will never follow suit. None of the majors can use space spells. If the dead corpse is destroyed, who will open the channel?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 447. 447 Short-Range Transmission Array. So the majors waited for the Corpse Yinzong to open the space channel, and then swarmed up to enjoy it. The dead Yin sect also did not stay. They already felt that the main factions were delayed, so they took advantage of the calm, sent a large number of disciples, and came out to make zombies, ready to fight the main factions. Yekong wanted to understand the cause and effect in an instant, but at this moment, he suddenly felt that the connection between the golden-winged ant and his sense was broken. Not good, Yekong suddenly thought. The fat man had already transmitted with Lu Ying. If it was too far away, he would not be able to sense the golden-winged ants and could not overhear them. Boom! Yekong also slammed the ground open with a fist, and sure enough, he saw a corner of the humble stone room below, and there was a small square altar filled with all kinds of magical spiritual texts, which were very profound and cumbersome. Some words, most characters are small and irregular. If I study this thing by myself, I am afraid that it won't work out for 1,000 years. Yekong thought so. However, he thought, if this thing was simple, the Kangnan continent would have been everywhere, so which round would it take to study it? Looking at the empty eyes of the small teleportation array, Yekong then realized why the fat man emphasized twice, "Relax, he can never find you." It turned out that the fat man pulled out the most critical instant jade moment after the start of the teleportation array. How many monks are there, Xianxia? Therefore, even if an ordinary monk is found, he cannot open this teleportation array. However, this can't help Yekong. I wanted to give a horseman brother of Ling Yaoshan a fubao, and he returned his piece of instant jade. This time he finally used it. But the question is coming again. It was very dangerous for Maoran to enter a place where he didn't know anything. If the fat man waited for himself after he passed, he suddenly attacked as soon as he appeared, it was really dangerous. However, Yekong decided to go in. First of all, the fat man should not think that he would have instant jade. If the fat man was ambushing there, he would certainly leave instant jade and set a trap for himself to drill. Secondly, it was never Yekong's work to see death, not to mention that the young lady Xiu had a deep relationship with herself, and had made her own bait. Also, these two dead monks are too damn, be sure to kill them. Thinking of this, Yekong no longer hesitated, immediately took out the piece of instant jade, and inserted it into the array of eyes in the middle of the altar. Immediately I saw the teleportation array lit up. Driven by the spirit stones placed around the teleportation array, the larger spiritual texts on the ground floated, and the dense small spiritual texts began to slowly rotate. Yekong quickly stood in the middle of the teleportation array, his hand was still holding a corner of Xianxia, and when his figure disappeared, Xianxia was also pulled by him. In fact, instant jade is a start-up function. After starting, it is okay to pull it out, and it can be completed with a spirit stone to provide energy. Yekong felt suddenly dark before his eyes, and then appeared as if in an endless void. There was no sky and no earth around, everything was nothing. At this moment, Yekong suddenly remembered that he was still not calm enough. When he heard that teleportation, in order to prevent space turbulence, the teleporter must bring any teleporter. I was so anxious that I forgot about it. Fortunately, short-range teleportation, the chance of encountering space turbulence is very small, and he not only opened the spiritual shield and blessed the golden light amulet. The feeling during the transmission was wonderful, it seemed to be a long time, and it seemed to be an instant. When Yekong looked at the situation in front of him again, he suddenly took a breath. I saw a large area of space in front of me, about half the size of a football field. On the football field, there were tall and short zombies, all of them were naked, with black bodies. Those corpses made by dead miners. It's really making evil. Even Yekong, who had always been soft, couldn't help yelling. At this glance, I was afraid that there were thousands of people. Although these people were just miners, although they were just mortals, though humble, but they are raised by father and mother in life. People are like ants. In the eyes of monks, people are not as good as ants. Because Yekong is invisible, when the teleportation array lights up, a golden aperture appears, Yekong's body is invisible, and the stone corpses can't find him, but he can't understand the roar. Wandering in the square. In order to prevent the fat man from discovering it, Yekong quickly cancelled the golden light shield and the spiritual shield, and then went to the end of the square. I saw that there were two independent houses there, and at the same time, the spiritual communication with the golden-winged ants also linked up. The voices of fat people and others also came over. Uncle, two monks, one in the early stage of foundation building and one in the middle of gas refining. Accidentally, I ran away that early in the foundation, and brought back only a female practitioner in the middle of gas refining. The fat man's voice sounded. Stand up. Run, a dull sound that had not been heard sounded, and he blamed him. Zhu Shun, it's not me who said you, why are you so careless? A copper corpse is more effective than 1,000 stone corpses outside. All big. The fat man named Zhu Shun sighed, Uncle, I can't help it either. That guy has a very special stealth charm. Not only his shape is hidden, but even the spiritual fluctuations are hidden, and it disappears. I couldn't find him after the blood stained. The low voice snorted and said, forget it, I don't care about you. But Zhu Shun, I can tell you that the two monk builders I caught before are my corpses, the woman in the middle of gas finishing fix it for you. Oh, then I threw her into the morgue first, Zhu Shun answered helplessly. Yekong sensed that the golden-winged ant moved along, moving from the large house on the left to the house on the right. He didn't hear Lu Ying's voice. He was worried, and quickly followed the house on the right. This huge space is also underground. There are no sun or moon. The house is made of simple stones. Yekong saw the fat man throw Lu Yan into the right room and then went back to the left room. At this time he was like a raccoon cat. Dive into the room on the right. There were black holes in the room, but the monk was still very capable. Yekong clearly saw that there were 7 stone coffins lined up on the ground. According to the signal of the golden-winged ant, Lu Ying was in the 3rd sarcophagus. Yekong didn't hurry to pass, but inspected the sarcophagus and found that there was no restraint, so he walked boldly. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 448. 448 Sarcophagus Mercy. Ka Yekong opened the sarcophagus and saw that Lu Ying's girl was lying quietly inside, and she did not know what spell she had been cast, but she seemed to be asleep. Seeing her safe and sound, Yekong pulled away the other sarcophagi, and found 3 sarcophagi in front of him, with Wan Yang, Li Wei and Lu Ying lying inside, and the 4 sarcophagus behind were all empty. It seems that the monks of the 2 dead yin sects have only arrested 3 monks so far, and the others are refined mortal corpses. Yekong carefully covered the lid of the sarcophagus again, and then walked to the 3rd sarcophagus, trying to wake Lu Ying, but at this moment, he heard the door opening sound from the door of the opposite house. Yekong desperately thought about it, and quickly jumped into the 3rd sarcophagus. Before the fat man Zhu Shun came in, the sarcophagus was silently covered. While covering the sarcophagus, a golden-winged ant flew out quietly while taking advantage of the darkness. The sarcophagus is new, there is no dirty smell inside, but it is filled with the fragrance of virginity on the body of the little girl, and yet crawls on Lu Ying's body, and can't help but feel a sense of trance in her heart. This is probably the case with the 2 children's shoes. Inside the sarcophagus, it really is very creative. Yekong and Lu Ying's heads are in one direction, one on their backs and one on their backs, and Ye naturally touches the warm and slippery face, which feels very beautiful. In fact, Lu Ying's thinking is awake. This is a secret technique of the dead yin section. From the appearance, it is asleep, but in fact, the brain thinking and physical feelings are all there. Lu Ying clearly felt that a person was pressing on her, and even she could feel the hot air hitting her face, neck, and ears. She was so anxious that she thought it was that the fat man got excited, and wanted to go wrong before killing the dead. However, Lu Ying didn't feel it, because the fat man had a round face and a shiny face. I didn't know how long he didn't wash his face. The face next to her face was relatively dry and felt sharp and angular. Do not know why, Lu Ying suddenly thought of that black-faced monk named Li Hizi. Is it him? Impossible. Lu Ying immediately rejected this speculation. The Li Hizi was so timid as a mouse that she was scared away. How dare you follow me? However, as the heat exhaled from that man's face became hotter, from accidental grinding to deliberate grinding, Lu Ying looked forward to the Li Hizi instead of the fat Zhu Shun. Not only Master 8, but also Li Hizi. I don't want that fat man. Lu Ying shouted in his heart. God lives up to expectations. Later Lu Ying heard a black man whispering, "Hey, little girl, I'm here to save you, you should wake up soon." Although Yekong was moving his eyes, he knew that at a very moment, he immediately called out. It's him. It really is him. God. Really that coward? At that moment, Lu Ying almost had the urge to cry, of course, if she could cry. The fat Zhu Shun used her corpse yin sect secret technique to penetrate her body, and she has completely wrapped her consciousness. This spell is a bit like Yekong's determinant. She has perception but cannot control her body. Isn't he a coward? How dare he follow in? Isn't he afraid? Lu Ying raised a lot of questions in her heart, but then she thought about the kid's nonsense again. Could he really be interested in me? That's why I tried to save me? Lu Ying couldn't help thinking about it. I called, but I couldn't feel someone moving because the gold-winged ants had sneaked into the opposite room. Uncle, or I'll help you get the 2 monk-building monks into the blood pool first and practice first. Fatty Zhu Shun's voice came. The low voice immediately alerted, what do you want to do? The 2 monks are mine. You want to catch it yourself. Zhu Shun laughed and laughed. Uncle, you have misunderstood me, I will help you with the preliminary refining, and never rob you, so you can always completely refining the silver corpse. Without your help, the old man, my silver corpse, will be refined. Naturally, I will go to the 2 monks who built the foundation. I will tell you, Zhu Shun, you will give me less sloppy eyes, and do your work with peace of mind. Zhu Shun laughed, uncle, seeing what you said, if I lie to you, it would not be to death. In fact, I want to go back soon, there are 1,000 corpses, and our task is completed. The low voice believed Zhu Shun's words and sighed, it's not as simple as you think. The Elder Dewan zombie soul array needs 100,000 stone corpses. Now the gap is very large. If we go back early, we're going to be sent out again to make stone corpses, so we might as well go back later. Overhearing Yekong, what a million dead corpses are actually needed for this 10,000 zombie soul array, that is the life of 100,000 mortals. Yekong suddenly thought of the 9 turns and the spirit formation. Compared with this 10,000 zombie devils formation, the 9 turns and the spirit formation could be regarded as a damaging piece. It seems that the so-called hurtful nature is purely Huyan. However, the huge array of 100,000 zombies must be very powerful. When he goes out, he must quickly send a note to Cao Lauher and ask his disciples to go out for inspections. Another thing that surprised Yekong was that the old Jadan ancestor had a silver body. Think about the copper corpses being so powerful. The silver corpses are probably even more powerful. Be careful when you fight them right away. Then I heard the uncle say, Zhu Shun, it is the key time to completely refining the successful silver corpse. I will let you watch next. After you reach the Dandan period, it will be easier to refining the silver corpse. This just be my reward. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 449. 449 again. After listening to the joy, Zhu Shun knelt down and scratched his head. Uncle Xia, although Uncle Xia often taught me to scold me, but I know that uncle is good to me. Otherwise, Uncle Shi would not take me. Ha ha, said the old ancestor of Jadan, the old man likes to be a real person, be obedient, and in the future you will need your benefit. Then there was probably the corpse refining over there. You could hear the gurgling sound, like the sound of water boiling, and a beast-like howl was heard at intervals, which made people scary. Yekong withdrew his consciousness and thought in his heart that although this corpse Yinzong was inconceivable, it did have some ways. Imagine that they only have 2 people, but they can command and mobilize thousands of troops. As long as the corpse is enough, they are an army by themselves. No wonder they dare to fight against other majors. Little girl, repair, wake up. Yekong drew his hand up and patted Lu Ying's face, but he didn't respond. He squeezed again and again on the little girl's mouth. Lu Ying was so annoyed that she vowed to pinch her back later. Touch the storage bag with the other hand, take a pill out of it, and then want to put the pill into her mouth. But her teeth were locked tightly, and the pills couldn't fit in. Ye had to loosen her brace arm and pinch her smooth chin with this hand. When Yekong was pressed down again, Lu Ying felt that his erect Ziyufen was squashed. Asshole! I been crushed to death by you! Shouted in Lu Ying's heart. Yekong pinched her chin and tried to open her mouth, but her teeth were so tight that she couldn't open them. Yekong didn't dare to use too much force. Someone was a little annoyed and said fiercely, if you don't speak again, I'll feed your booger. I'll put the elixir in your nostrils. I'll. The young lady Xiu Ying thought sadly, oh my god. You are a savage, so why are you even more savage than the barbarians? Although Yekong scolded, he wouldn't do that. A smart black man soon had a good way to feed elixir. Mouth to mouth. See if you can open. If it doesn't work, melt the elixir in my mouth and seep through your teeth. Yekong thought so. However, the boy was not authentic. The elixir was right before he put it in his mouth. And just then, Lu Ying suddenly felt something. She felt the thick black corpse in her body, rushing frantically towards the man along the lips of the 2. No. God. You bastard, don't kiss anymore, don't you want to be the same as me now? Lu Ying thought anxiously, if Li Hezi also lay down, she would be really desperate. Ye Kong felt it naturally, but he thought it was a good method. Anyway, when the corpse gas entered his body, it would be cleaned by the immortal gas. Lu Ying also found out this. Her body's corpse had flowed from 1978 to 888, this guy has nothing at all, and still tastes her red lips with interest. Slowly the little girl's teeth loosened, and someone's tongue penetrated in unhindered. Elixir is no longer needed, Buddy's tongue is a panacea, as long as the corpse and venom in her body are exhausted. Lu Ying began to think clearly, but she was confused when the corpse was absorbed. To be precise, confused by someone. However, a scream from the golden-winged ant caused Ye Kong to stop moving instantly. Ah, a shrill scream. Ye Kong heard that was the old ancestor of Zhu Dan who was called the uncle by Zhu Shun. What happened to him? Ye Kong busy staring to listen. Zhu Shun. You even attacked me, the voice was still panting during the voice, and it seemed that he was not hurt lightly. Then the fat man Zhu Shun laughed, and he said vaguely, Uncle, what's the taste of corpse backwash? Ha ha, is it very comfortable, ha ha ha. The uncle said angrily, why are you beasts so bad for me? Treat me like your relatives and disciples. I will take you with you when I come out. Zhu Shun angrily said, you say less of this, why do you like to take me everywhere? Zhu Shun paused, and suddenly roared, that's because you think I'm stingy. Think I'm real? It's stupid to say that I'm not good, but uncle, even though I am fat, I have eyes. Every time you get the benefits, I will be jealous. After Zhu Shun said it, he smiled slightly, and then said, of course, those are the next most important reason is the silver corpse. Haha, you have already finished the sacrifice, as long as I recognize that the Lord is mine, haha, moreover, I can also make you into a silver corpse. Zhu Shun laughed loudly and shouted, from then on I will have 2 silver corpses, 3 bronze corpses, I am the corpse Yin, the first real person in Zhongzhi base period. Don't be delusional, the uncle scolded. You build the base period, at most you control the copper corpses at the same level. How can you control the silver? Uncle, she said here, suddenly thought of something, angry, I stole my belly cutting and heart-breaking method. You're right, I've been practicing for a long time, just waiting to kill the uncle to be my silver corpse. Zhu Shenyin smiled, and heard Ye Kong a little sweaty. The uncle smiled bitterly, I look down on you, and I really treat you as a real person. Go to Wangxia Pond. Flop, the sound of something rolling into the water. This corpse Yin Zone is really no different from a beast, killing his wife and uncle, not even blinking. Ye Kong muttered, suddenly thinking of what silver corpse had reached the time of refining and confessing the Lord. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 450. 45 or 0 belly cut heart. No, Ye Kong called out, lifted the hidden magic charm, raised the sarcophagus cover in one hand, and stood up, holding Lu Ying's hand in the other. Hurry up, we must stop the silver corpse from acknowledging the Lord. Ye Kong's voice made Lu Ying unable to pretend to die, and quickly climbed out of the coffin. In fact, when she responded to Ye Kong's kiss, Ye Kong knew she was awake. They left the morgue and came to the morgue. The room was bright and transparent, and when I saw it, it looked like a slaughterhouse. There was blood and blood everywhere, and human bodies were piled up everywhere. Some of the bodies were white and green. Ye rolled up in the stomach even when she looked empty. Xiu Luiying couldn't help but retched. The most eye-catching thing in the room was the huge blood pool in the middle. The blood in the pool seemed to be boiled. There was no air bubbles, and a strong smell permeated. An old man in grey clothing covered in blood was beating and struggling. Seeing Ye Kong and Lu Ying come in, the fat man was frightened. He really didn't understand how this guy came in. Even if he kept following himself, there shouldn't be a twinkling to start the teleportation array. You. How did you get in here? Asked Zhu Shun, a fat man. Does this question still make sense? Ye Kong mocked. That's right, it doesn't make sense. Zhu Shun smiled. You are defeated and you dare to die. Your greatest significance is to become a corpse. It seems you are really stupid. Ye Kong ridiculed. Since I dared to appear in front of you, it means that your means are not in my eyes, just lost. That's to find your old nest. Lu Ying also hated the fat man, and now the interface is loud. Ye Kong spread his hands and sighed, look, my stupid wife knows it, you haven't understood yet, alas, you are really not stupid. Those who are conspired by you are just stupid. Listening to him calling his wife, Lu Ying's pretty face immediately appeared a thin layer of red mist, scolding this guy and talking nonsense in his heart, but thinking that he just kissed him so enthusiastically, and Xianxia's heart was in a mess again. Zhu Shun listened to Ye Kong's scolding for being stupid, and was angry, and said with a smile, everyone thinks I'm stupid, but they were killed by me in the end, and you are no exception. Ye Kong shook his head. That's because they are not only stupid, they are not strong enough. Zhu Shunya laughed, good breath. You, the second floor of the foundation, think you are very powerful, so let me see your strength. After he finished speaking, another shot of his coffin was made by his wife. The zombies made by his wife were very obedient and came out flexibly. The arm that had been bitten before had grown out, exposing Bai Sensen's bones. The bones were full of blood-stained, terrifying look. Your top-grade flying sword is still with me, to see what magic tools you use this time. Ha ha ha, Zhu Shun looked back at the 10,000 blood pools, his face was frozen, and he immediately ordered, hang all them. The zombie immediately screamed too harsh, screams and pounced. Zhu Shun hurried to the edge of Xianxia pool and picked up a small silver bowl from the ground. The bowl was filled with blood. As soon as Zhu Shun raised his hand, he poured the blood from the bowl to the ground, and then he did something startling. I saw Zhu Shun holding the bowl in one hand and hammering his own chest with the other hand. After hammering it 10 times, he saw a violent turning in his belly, vomit. With a mouthful of Zhu Shun, his face was flushed with red. After a moment, he saw a red thing bigger than his fist spit out and landed in the bowl. Oh my god! It's his heart, Xiao Xiu screamed awkwardly, and she had never seen a picture more terrifying than this. Ye Kong knows that these 8 achievements are the so-called cut-heartedness he heard just now. In fact, this belly cutting is the secret of the Corpse Yin sect, even if the general Corpse Yin sect is not, and it is too cruel, no one practices it. In order to control a silver corpse, Zhu Shun practiced this evil skill. He had cut his belly many times before, and he finally used it today. After a while, the silver corpse will come out, use its own heart to perform a ritual, and then recover the heart, and the silver corpse will recognize the Lord. The blood and water in the Xianxia was getting more and more fierce. Zhu Shun knew that the time was up. When he had a silver corpse that was more powerful than Monk Jidan, what were these 2 little bugs? He held his own heart and chanted a curse. Ye Kong understood what the fat man was doing. This guy wanted to entangle himself with the copper corpse, and he went through the final refining and recognition process of that silver corpse. Ye Kong didn't want to make a silver corpse anymore, but it was more arrogant than Jidan's ancestors. If he really recognized the fat man, he would be more troublesome. Little zombie, want to haunt me too? Ye Kong snorted coldly, took out a small black flag, and took a move in the wind, only to see a blue-white light group falling out. When the light mass fell to the ground, a big, strong wolf appeared beside Ye Kong, scaring Lu Ying quickly back to someone. Howling Wolf King hasn't come out for a long time. He flew out and immediately shook his body. Then he raised his head and yelled, "Oh!" The howling sound was ethereal and penetrating. It made people feel scared when they heard it, but it was not unpleasant. Lu Ying secretly went to see the wolf larger than himself, and was amazed. This Li Hezi actually has such a powerful fairy pet. Where does he come from? What is it called? Work hard. Someone impatiently slapped him on the back of a wolf. The Wolf King's lyrical roar was interrupted, which seemed very unpleasant, but it didn't matter when he met the owner. Seeing the eyes of Xiaofeng Wolf King, Lu Ying wanted to laugh. This blackbird is really brutal. He is so brutal to his own fairy pets. He was also brutal to himself in the sarcophagus just now. This must be a brutal man. Although Xiaofeng Wolf King was dissatisfied, but he fought hard to fight. As soon as he came forward, he used his latest learned spell Extreme Cyclone Blade. I saw the Wolf King open his mouth, and several wind blades blurted out. Each of the wind blades was bright and transparent blue and white, about the size of a palm. Each wind blade was flying and spinning, so fast that it could not be seen by the naked eye. The blade of the wind blade looks like a round blue-white disc. The copper corpse is so tough that even the top flying sword wasn't cut off. Can these wind blades work? Lu Ying couldn't help worrying. Sure enough, those wind blades were chopped on the copper corpse, and they were unable to crack the copper corpse's skin. However, those wind blades turned amazingly, and they did not stop hitting the bronze corpse, still flying. Finally, Doraemon broke the hard skin of the copper corpse. The wind blade immediately penetrated through the body, and the black blood was splashing everywhere. The Howling Wolf King worked in a single blow, immediately spit out a large number of wind blades, and swooped over the copper corpse. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 451. 451 Silver Corpse. The bronze corpse was wounded all over and was wounded. Many places were punctured in pairs. It was just like a big spider. It lay on the ground and hurried away. Yekong also confronted Zhu Shun there. He held the Ursuo sword formed by the Ursuo sword and threw it out suddenly, and the fat Zhu Shun did not expect that his bronze corpse was so poor. I endured this note with my own back. Yekong watched that he would rather be beaten with his back without damaging the heart in the disc. He immediately moved his heart and knocked out the Dementor bell. Under the attack of the sound, Zhu Shun was shocked. While he was faint, Yekong's Wusuo picked up again and hooked the heart. Seeing this scene, the monk Jidan who was struggling in the blood pool and laughed, "Ha ha, fat man, retribution. If you don't plan for me, we have no problem dealing with this blackbird, ha ha retribution." He laughed and yelled at Yekong again, "Hey, he's finished the spell, as long as you swallow this heart, the silver corpse is yours." After speaking, he was weak and a bubble in the blood pool flipped up and squeezed it into the blood. This 10,000 blood pool is very evil, but it is made from the blood and bones of tens of thousands of people through the secret method. People will lose their spiritual power and lose their will at the same time. Mortals will become a zombie when they go down to a T. Zhu Shun was confused for a moment. When he was clear-minded, he immediately saw Yekong's heart. "Give me back my things," Zhu Shun rushed forward to as if he was crazy. He worked hard to get a silver corpse without hesitation, but did not expect the last moment, so that others do not steal the heart. Zhu Shun flew over with blood. "Let's go to hell," Yekong screamed. A shadow martial move jumped up, his toes cleverly caught Zhu Shun's head, and he was stunned again. With the help of force, Zhu Shun slammed into himself. Wang Xiuqi. Yekong rolled over and fell, and the heart fell on his palm, still beating rhythmically. Howling Wolf also completely solved the bronze corpse at this moment. I saw that the copper corpse had been cut into several pieces by the wind blade, and the head and limbs were all separated. It was annoying that the head that was rolled to the side was still emitting that kind of howling. Non-human, non-beast, seemed very angry. "Let's die." Yekong was a handsome turnover again. After turning up into the air, he was slightly in shape, then fell down with one foot and accelerated. Oh, the zombie's head that kept calling himself was trampled. The incident seemed to come to an end. Lu Ying came over and looked at the beating heart with anxiety and asked, "Senior Li, are you going to accept the silver corpse?" Although it is disgusting for Lu Ying to swallow this heart, the silver corpse is a powerful existence equivalent to an ancestor. Even more, the body of silver corpse is stronger than the ancestor of Jadan. If there are more thugs, any monk will immediately rise up. I am afraid that none of the monks below Dan will refuse. Even the ancestors who have been Dan will not give up this opportunity and accept the silver corpse. Zeng. Lu Ying thought to himself, even if he couldn't resist the temptation. But looking at someone's lips, she was thinking, if he really eats this heart, he will never let him kiss. But if he doesn't eat it, let him kiss him? Oh my God, how could this happen? But Master ate, oh, so messy. When Lu Ying's heart was chaotic, I heard a low roar from the bubbling Xianxia pool, and the voice was hoarse, like a roar of a beast, which made people shudder. Yekong turned around and saw a zombie suddenly standing in Xianxia. The eyes of the zombie were full of brutal blood red. Long fangs were expended from thick lips. "This is probably them," said Silver Corpse. The Silver Corpse stood bleeding, and at a glance saw Zhu Shu, who was struggling in front of him. Roar! Silver Corpse blood-red eyes flashed with excitement. It grabbed Zhu Shun, held Zhu Shun's legs with both hands, and then, one hand. Zhu Shun's butcher-like body was torn into two asymmetrical halves immediately. The intestinal organs were all hung out, and the Silver Corpse was even more excited, and bit on Zhu Shun's body and chewed. "Ah!" Lu Ying screamed again. There are too many horror scenes today. One is more horrible than the other. She only feels her legs and feet stumbling and her stomach rolling violently. She quickly shrinks behind Yekong. Probably attracted by Lu Ying's voice, Silver Corpse immediately looked over. It immediately dropped the corpse in its hand and strode toward Yekong. When the Silver Corpse walked out of the Xianxia pool, he flung his body suddenly, and saw that thick blood was immediately blown away, revealing his red fruit body. Yekong noticed that the body of the Silver Corpse was white and shiny with metal. The silver light color, and his chest, back are densely engraved with various mysterious spiritual characters and patterns. On his belly, there are 7 similar signs. Yellow color paper note. Seeing that this person is not human, and that the beast is not like a beast, there are so many mysterious and weird things engraved on his body, and even Yekong has one mind in his heart. Roar! Silver Corpse roared again and came over, the 2 living people in front of him, making it extremely excited. Lu Ying looked at the monster in front of her, and she was so scared that she didn't know what to do. After all, she was a little girl who was less than 18 years old. She usually practiced behind closed doors at the Huang family in Wanzhou. She felt that the degree of danger today was no less than that outside Huangzhou. Fortunately, there are 8 masters outside the southern capital, and now, there are Li Hizi. "Senior Li, you swallow that heart quickly," Lu Ying said. "Yes, as long as this heart is swallowed, the Silver Corpse will recognize the Lord and naturally will not attack itself." But Yekong shook his head and said, "I'm afraid I can't eat any more after eating this stuff. Even if I kiss a woman, I feel panic." Lu Ying fainted. "It's time now, why still remember this?" While they were talking, the Protector's Howling Wolf King launched the first wave of attacks, and saw that his head was screaming, and the aura around his body violently fluctuated, as if a layer of fog, blue and white. The mist completely wrapped the Silver Corpse, and the numerous rapidly rotating wind blades also circled in the mist with the airflow. Lu Ying stared at the white expanse, expecting the Silver Corpse to be cut into powder by the numerous wind blades. I saw violent turning from time to time in the fog, accompanied by the thumping sound of the wind blade. The turbulent wind blade and the extreme whirlwind blade were amazing, but it was disappointing that the weird and scary zombie walked out without any damage.